Hello and welcome, I am Thomas Porteous, and let's take a look at the latest in Canada's federal election race of 2025. The race for Canada's upcoming federal election is heating up, with a new poll showing the gap between the ruling Liberals and the opposition Conservatives narrowing. The latest survey from Angus Reid puts the Liberals ahead with 45%, though they've dropped 1 percentage point since last week. The Conservatives are catching up with 39%, marking a 3-point increase. The NDP and the Bloc Québécois are struggling, both polling at 7%. Meanwhile, the Green Party is barely holding on with less than 3%. Affordable living remains the top issue for Canadians, with 56% of voters ranking it as the most important. Healthcare and Canada-US relations follow closely behind. With the election set for the April the 28th, the leaders face off in the first French language debate on the 21st of April in Montreal. The debate's start time was moved up to avoid a clash with Montreal's Canadiens playoff game. Let's now take a look at some of the other opinion polls. As you can see by the Liaison Strategies opinion polls that were taken on the 15th of April 2025, the Liberal Party of Canada remains at the top with 44% of the poll, following sharply behind it by the Conservative Party of Canada at 39%. The New Democratic Party is trailing behind with 6% of the proposed vote, with the Bloc Québécois also with 5%. If we can now move on to the next poll. Now, once again, let's take a look at some of the leaders of the party's popularity. According to the CBC News poll tracker, also put on the 15th of April, we're talking about the figureheads of each of these parties here. The Liberal Party leader, Mark Carney, the current Prime Minister of Canada, with 44.1% of approval rating, leading the polls, with Pierre Poilievre following up second with 37.9% of the vote. With the New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh holding 8% approval with Canadians, and Yves-François Blanchet with 5.3% approval from the Canadian public. Let's move on once more. My apologies. We will now move to Daniel Boardman, senior correspondent for the National Telegraph, located in Toronto, Canada, to discuss the updates in the Canadian election further. Thank you very much for joining us, Daniel. This, the first French language debate is taking place within the next few days. How important is it for the Canadian leader to how they carry themselves in the French language? Obviously, the main English is the thing that's mainly spoken in Canadian, but cities like Quebec, the northern part of Canada, French is severely important. Mark Carney, the current Prime Minister of Canada, has faced criticism for his French skills. What can you tell me about this upcoming French language debate, Daniel Boardman, and how important is it?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting, and it might be more important than the English language debate, which far more people will care about. And the answer to that is because of the Bloc Québécois and Mark Carney's French speaking skills. So this is a very snapped rush election that the Liberals are pushing through to sort of ride the popularity of the sort of anti-Trump wave right now. Because before Trump came in and started saying crazy things, but annexing Canada is a 20-point lead for the Conservatives. But we have a first past the post parliamentary system. So the party you mentioned, the Bloc Québécois, their percentage of support is always misleading because they don't run candidates outside the province of Quebec. And they were separatist, now they're quasi-nationalist party. So Mark Carney has terrible French skills. And if his terrible French skills are significantly exploited in Quebec, the Bloc could see a big swing, which might mean more seats go to the Bloc, take down the Liberals' vote total, and then lead to a pathway to the Conservatives.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at. If that's the biggest potential manifestation in vote switching in a debate. So it's not very likely that if Mark Carney says something like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna reinstitute slavery and then fly to the moon, and then I'm gonna sell everyone's assets to BlackRock or something. No one will really care. The media will wipe that over, and then it will be erased and memory hold rather quickly. I mean, liberal scandals don't stick in this country, but the one thing that might stick is the French are highly particular on the ability to speak French, and that could severely undermine him in Quebec. Uh, that's the most interesting thing about the debate, is will Mark Carney's poor French skills hurt him electorally in Quebec, and will that then help the Bloc Québécois
Yes.
secure more seats?
Certainly, Daniel. What else came in from these polls? Looking in from the outside of Canada, US-Canadian relations seem to be the most prominent thing in regard to international news. But this is not the case in regards to the election polling. Affordability and economic the economics of Canada are at the forefront, housing affordability being a key point in this. We know that Mark Carney obviously has a banking background with both the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada. He's also had experience at Goldman Sachs. How will this come into play? Will people, do you think, see him as looking after the elite as a judging by his past experience? Or do you think that with this experience comes the fact that he is most economically equipped to deal with Canada's economic hardships right now?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Carney's a very interesting character on the economics fact, because if you follow his economic career, he has an illustrious career of getting everything literally wrong and then failing upwards. And to go in the weeds of that, so his background does help him a bit in juxtaposed to Justin Trudeau. So Justin Trudeau, who was forced to resign, his unpopularity in Canada came primarily, let's say, from his extreme buffoonery, to put it lightly. Justin Trudeau was the type of guy who would say the budget will balance itself. His economic plan, quite literally in 2015, was to grow the economy from the heart outwards. No one really knew what that meant, but it was good and it was progressive. And that's how Justin Trudeau won votes, was I'm a good person. People who vote against me are bad people. That's the thing. Mark Carney was his economic advisor. Mark Carney believes all the crazy things Justin Trudeau believes. But Mark Carney's pitch is, I'm smart. Anyone who doesn't vote for me is stupid. That's a more effective pitch when Canada's financial system is just broken. But you see, anyone who's voting on affordability is going to vote conservative. Because Pierre, again, as you see, the Liberals have started to steal the Conservatives' platform because the people are identifying now with the things that need to be done from the Conservative angle. So Pierre's rhetoric is much more appealing to Canadians, but Mark Carney has a bit more of a elitist technocratic background, which undercuts the anti-liberal swing of these guys are buffoons and morons and don't know what they're doing. And that's why the economy has gone bust. So there is a bit of a boon Mark Carney gets by being an elitist banker. But anyone who's the Liberals are very concerned, because anyone who's concerned about economics is much more likely to vote conservative. So that's why you see the Liberals really trying to shift the balance, and they have journalists now in the United States trying to provoke Trump on 51st State comments, because the Liberals, listen, when people are thinking about housing, cost of living,
Yes.
and how things, they're going to vote conservative. If they're thinking about how crazy Donald Trump is, they're more likely to vote liberal, and that's how they elect.
Daniel, I just wanted to ask the public perception image of Pierre Poilievre and how he's feasing with the Canadian public as a possible leader. Obviously, you've mentioned before that that the Liberal Party have kind of pitched him as some people within that's close to Pierre Poilievre as being Trump allies, and obviously with sentiment in Canada right now being very much anti-US, if you could call it that. How is Pierre Poilievre posing as a possible leader to lead Canada forward against the US administration?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of an skew, because I mean, in politics, there's people who are like staunchly right wing and staunchly left wing, of course, and people who are staunchly left wing in Canada. We're going to hate Pierre Poilievre no matter what he said, no matter what he did, and are going to sort of compare him to Trump because he's the sort of ultimate boogeyman right now. But as someone who's covered Pierre Poilievre and covered his rallies, I mean, since the Conservative leadership debate, and I've always made the case, Pierre Poilievre is a fundamentally different politician than Donald Trump, extremely different. And Polyev was accused of being Trump from the outset because Polyev became extremely popular, and lots of people came to see his rallies and his talks. And there was a massive conflation, and there has been in Canada, between a populist and someone who is popular. So Donald Trump's rallies are incredibly populist. He presents a lot of simple solutions to complex problems and a lot of gusto to get it done and sort of emotional, we're going to do it, and rah rah. Whereas Pierre Poilievre is fundamentally different if you go to a Pierre Poilievre rally. Pierre Poilievre has a gift to spend like 10 minutes on inflation. So he will actually lay out a problem, explain what's causing it, and then go through a 4-point solution to the problems that people at any level, like that a banker, that a farmer, that a student, all of them can kind of understand when Pierre Poilievre gets talking and doing on these things. So that's always been his strength, his sort of long form ability to communicate complex ideas and get the common man to sort of understand that. So anyone who listens to Poilievre doesn't really get the Trump vibe. But if you don't listen to Poilievre and you're just only consuming left wing media in Canada, then yeah, you're gonna think he's Trump and he's the devil and he's come to burn your house down. But again, he's married to a Venezuelan immigrant. He's a father of 2 kids. His daughter is nonverbal, has special needs. The more people see, like again, when people start to listen to Pierre Poilievre actually talk about things, then they like him a lot more, and the Trump comparisons sort of blow away. But this is why the Liberals wanted a snap election, and another reason so quickly, because if there were more long-term exposure to Poilievre, you see his likability goes way up.
Yes. I just wanted to finally cover Jagmeet Singh and the New Democratic Party in Canada. Do they hold any real weight? Where can we expect them to make gains as Jagmeet Singh as their leader?
They're actually the story of this election. The collapse of the NDP is really what's driving the Liberals' compatibility, is the consolidation of the left. Jagmeet Singh, like, if he might win, if there's like a country, if Khalistan manages to form a referendum and like part of British Columbia becomes an actual like Khalistan, then Jagmeet Singh might become prime minister of that. That might be an option, but Jagmeet Singh is quite possibly one of the worst politicians in Canadian history. He has managed to tank the NDP. The NDP is no brand. The hatred of Justin Trudeau and the sort of the F Trudeau mentality in Canada has seeped mostly into Jagmeet, who is sort of Justin Trudeau's wingman for the last couple of years. And it's one of the things where the hate of Trudeau has kind of consolidated more around Jagmeet's character than it has around Mark Carney, who is Trudeau's economic advisor and shares the same party. But expect the NDP to make real gains in fantasy land and none in reality. They're an absolute joke of the party. The complete collapse. I mean, they're a party for a 20-year-old girl on TikTok who gets her. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke of a party, and it's a great how to not be a politician from Jagmeet Singh.
Yes.
I could do a whole 4 hours on the collapse of the NDP, but it's a rather impressive collapse, and they stand no chance of gaining anywhere. They're running a terrible campaign with terrible candidates, with terrible ideas, with the complete distrust of the entire Canadian public.
Daniel, just one final question. How do you see Donald Trump influencing this election?
That's a great dark horse, right? Donald Trump can get on TV and say anything crazy at any time. You already see the Liberals are trying their hardest to provoke Trump because, again, they do best when Trump is threatening to annex Canada, and they can play the patriotism card because the Liberals have sort of taken away the patriotism in the country for the last 10 years, right? Post-national state, no core identity, it's an evil, racist, post-colonial, blah, 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 blah. That was the line. But now with Trump threatening to annex Canada, make it the 51st state, they have a very good, oh, rah, rah, we're Canadian. Canadians are not American, sort of a positive message, so to speak, they can give to Canadians. So Donald Trump is a total wild card. He could get on TV, sort of calm everything down, say new things, and then become a non-factor. And then you never know, 2 nights before the election, he might get on and then talk about annexing the country and walking right in, and what are the borders anyway, and it's not a real vote, the vote is fake, or the vote is rigged, or you could say anything crazy, right? That's sort of the great dark horse. I mean, he took a conservative blowout and turned it into a tight race, and you just don't know what he's going to say or do, and how people are going to react. I mean, he hopefully he has his plate full. Like I would hope that he's trying to focus more on getting rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear program. I hope
Yes.
I hope that takes up more focus than trying to mess up a Canadian election. But you never know.
Daniel Boardman, thank you very much for joining us. That's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from Canada and beyond. Thank you.